Hello, I'm Tramell Isaac. I'm the art director here at Boss Key here in Raleigh, North Carolina.
So let's start by talking about what the influencers were when it comes to the art direction of this game.
Well, I mean, we really want to give the players something different, something they haven't seen before, and a lot of the ideas came from Cliff himself. So we're basically kind of taking his ideas and consolidating them to something that's a little bit more believable. So like Cliff comes up with these wild ideas, and they can come from left field, but at the essence of it is basically what we're trying to achieve. And I think right now what we have on the screen with these 8 different characters is basically the boiled down, consistent like essence of what this is, and into a space that's more vibrant, a more kind of a different take on what reality could be if this cataclysmic thing actually happened.
Now, I understand when you guys made the announcement that you were going to go away from free-to-play that there was some talk about going a little bit darker and maybe changing some things up. Are these characters going to evolve more, or do you feel these are the characters we'll see?
I think this is where we want to end up. So before, what we were talking about was basically adjusting the characters so that they weren't as kind of over the top and exaggerated. We were going a little bit more exaggerated for like visual sake, and that's more to identify what things were in the distance. But we quickly realized that we didn't actually need that. So we brought things back to more realistic proportions to keep it more within the fiction of what we were trying to go for. This is a mature rated game. We wanted to feel a little bit more realistic, a little bit more gritty, and what we had before didn't really fit that paradigm.
Can you break down the 4 brand new characters you guys are showcasing here?
Okay, so we've got Kentaro, which is on the Breaker side. We've got Bombshell, which is on the Law side. We've got Hellion, which is on the Law side. The Titan class, which has the rocket launcher and the CRISPR, and has a special ability as well. We've got the Mavericks. These guys are going ham over here. So we got the Maverick, which is basically our flying kind of like stealth jet class. And she's also Tosca 9, which is the one I forgot. Okay. Is on the Breaker side. Has the Gatling gun and Starfall special ability. We've got the Assassin class we got the dual wielding swords, and we got the Enforcer, which is basically he's got the shoulder rockets and traditional kind of aim down sights rifle.
When it comes to the art direction, can you talk a little about the world itself and break down this level that people are seeing, but give us a sense of what you were going for in creating this world, especially since it's happening way after this shattering event?
Mm-hmm. So the game takes place after a cataclysmic event, but after we've rebuilt that from that cataclysmic event, which is a little bit different from a lot of games that kind of like, oh, the world is destroyed and then it stays that way. But it really doesn't happen that way in real life. So we want to kind of ground these things in reality. So you'll have like multiple locations that are familiar to you as we are in real life right now. So like the map that we have is Grandview right now, which happens in the Grand Canyon. So you'll see like some familiar like landmarks within the game, but then we take that and put a twist on it. So like after the event happens, then you're just like, okay, what do we do with it now? Like you've got these gravity wells, you've got things floating in space, but then you also have like a giant base that's in the middle of a Grand Canyon that's sitting on a rock that's been tethered down so it doesn't float away. So what we wanted to have was like a realistic take on something that is not as realistic as it could be. So it's like, okay, you got this anti-gravity, but how do you make that world feel realistic with those rules? So we changed the rules, and then we built a world around those rules, and that's basically how Grandview came to play.
You just mentioned gravity. Can you talk about the verticality of these levels and how that's been designed to take advantage of that?
Mm-hmm. All the maps have been designed for 360 combat. So you can get attacked from any direction. It's not necessarily like this linear flow that you're used to in most FPSs. So you can basically swing from one end of the map to the next end of the map, go up over the buildings, go through the buildings. You can fly up and down and go in and around and like all these things. You can blind fire, you can propel yourself through the space. Like there's a lot of different paradigms that Lawbreakers has that you won't ever see in any other game.
Now I know Cliff had mentioned that this takes place after the U.S. government has sold off all of the national monuments, so Grand Canyon being one of them. The Yakuza actually purchased them, but he also mentioned Mount Rushmore. So will this game go to multiple different national monuments?
Yeah, we want, like I said, we want this thing to feel familiar, but then when you see it, you're like, oh, that's Mount Rushmore, and like, what happened to it? Like, so we've got different things that actually happen within those spaces, and then once we have the familiar element, we can take that and flip it and do whatever we want with it. So you've got the realistic, in real life type stuff, and then we take that and then change it around to make it ours.
The other thing that we didn't really get into are the two factions. I know you got the Law and then the Breakers. Can you talk a little about that and how that influenced how these characters look?
Mm-hmm. So the Law side, on the Law side, we wanted to make sure that people could quickly identify them as friendly types. They're not necessarily all like law-abiding citizens, but they're all fighting for the right cause. And on the Breaker side, obviously these guys are not the most upstanding citizens that we have out there in the world. But like, if you take the difference between Tosca 9 and Maverick, you can see that Tosca has like rounded shapes, but in her face and everything that she embodies is a little bit askew. So something's not quite right with that girl. And then if you look at Maverick, she's got a different look. She's a little bit more heroic in her just her visage, and the actual shapes on her are a lot more spiky and kind of stealth bomber like. So very military in her look and feel. So you got the two kind of paradigms, like you got the rounded shapes versus these sharp edges, and then like when you see them off in the distance, you see the silhouette changes. So you can tell easily which side is which. So like that is basically taken from every side, from each one of the Titan classes onto like all the assassin classes. So like on the Hellion, she's got like mechanical legs, so you can tell like the difference in her silhouette because it gets thin at the bottom. And then on the Shura side, you've got the assassin who's got like flowing cloth, so she's got things hanging off of her. So you can immediately identify which one's on the Breaker side and which one's on the Law side.
When it comes to yourself, you've been making games, I believe, for 22 years now. What was it like to come here, a brand new team, a lot of youth I noticed looking around this office, and being one of the elder statesmen here?
Elder statesman. Okay, I'll accept that. It's been great, man, because it's been really good to learn from everybody. And just because we've been doing this for 20-something years, even Cliff himself, I mean, we're all learning new things every day. So it's great to be able to be in a situation where we can take use of what we've learned and also use that to teach other people, and at the same time learn from the people that we're bringing in as well. So I mean, for me, it's been a blessing because I get to learn new things and I get to pass on some information to these youngins and give them a little bit of something about the old days.
And you also quite a difference between San Diego and Raleigh. What are your thoughts about this place, having lived here now for a little bit?
I love it. I mean, for me, it's not really about the place. It's about like the challenges within this environment. I came out here for the challenge. I came out here to help Cliff build this company. I came out here to build a game that was different from everything else that we built in the past. So we've achieved that at this point, and we're going to continue to try to work on that. But the area, for me, I don't really care. I could be, as long as we got a Walmart and a gas station, I'm good.
What do you feel the challenges are, in switching from free-to-play to actually charging people for a game in this environment where so much stuff is available for people for free?
Well, I think it's liberating because now we don't have to be concerned about what are the people going to think if we try to charge them for this. And it's like, you're missing the point. Like, the point is to make a cool game, make a fun game. And now we can focus on making the fun game and not have to worry about, where's the money going to come from? If you make a good game, they will come. That's it. So instead of trying to find a way to nickel and dime people throughout the process, we can just focus on making a really cool game, making it fun, and then people will pay for it, period.
And one thing I noticed, and today's shooters, lots and lots of guys, but this one seems to have a lot of female characters. Mm-hmm. Can you talk a little about that aspect and how you went about creating them?
Yeah, I think it starts from Cliff himself. One of the things that he wanted to do was build a diverse game as well as develop a diverse workforce. So if you look around, you'll see a bunch of people that we have working here, minorities, we got females, we got a little bit of everything, and that's going into the game. So my opinions, Ned's opinions, Lee's opinions, all of these people are minorities or people of color. They all have input into these characters that we are making that are so that we don't make stereotypes. And it's going to basically make this a more solid game. It's going to make it a more well-rounded game. It's going to give different perspectives on like Latinos and African Americans and Asians that aren't necessarily just your typical stereotypical African American or Asian characters. So we're trying to build a brand that is acceptable for many people, and not something that's not exclusive to one group or another. An all-inclusive type game that actually includes all different types of people from all different walks of life, so people can identify with one character or another in some way, not necessarily your typical army dude and that's all I do and there's no females in this world. Like, okay, that's not the real world that we live in. And I think that comes down on high from Cliff. Cliff wants to make sure that we make games that stand the test of time, mainly because they include everybody that's all around. And who knows, hopefully we can get to the point where we've got a role or a class that fits pretty much every ethnicity out there, transgender, who knows, we can make whatever we want. But it comes from the top to the bottom, just saying, okay, we need to make sure that we include these types of people and make sure that they have something that represents them accurately.